Okay, well, we got the car indoors again now. I went outside for a couple of weeks. We're in the other shed because I've had some other stuff going on. So we've done a bit more work on it. So the hydraulic clutch is largely finished now. So remember in the previous video I made up the sort of adapter system in the back there to convert the car to being hydraulic. So I've mounted a little reservoir on the side of the chassis leg there. It's actually a aftermarket, like a motorbike brake or clutch lever master cylinder, so it's absolutely tiny, but it's got more than enough capacity for the stroke of that master cylinder. So I've just got that plumbed straight down to there, which actually looks quite tidy. So then I've routed the pipe down the left hand side. I know in original Peugeots they put it across the back, but I want to keep that well away from all my turbos and stuff, so I've routed it around the left hand side here, and then you can just see it comes back and around, and if Chris, my assistant in the car, pushes the pedal, you can see how it's stroking the clutch absolutely fine. So overall quite happy with that. Feels nice and smooth, and obviously now there's no cable to break and no cable to melt, which is the primary reason for using the hydraulic clutch over the cable clutch, because of all the heat that we've got going on right where the clutch cable used to run. So that's the clutch all sorted out. I just got it jacked up now because it's time to put the drive shafts in. Basically I just had to make some modifications underneath the car to the sat shift just on the front of it. Although I did say in the previous video it fitted fine, that was before I tilted the engine forward to 15 degree. Obviously when I did that everything didn't exactly work because it was designed for the gear linkages to be lying back. So I've had to just, it was quite easy to modify actually. I was able to just bend and re-weld the levers coming off from the main gear shift, the arm that comes up to the front. So that was quite easy to do. That's now working nicely and there's plenty of clearance still around everything. So next job really is just put the drive shafts in. They've got to go in anyway, and I want them to be in before I start on the downpipe, because it's just another thing that kind of gets in the way. So I want everything that could be in the way to be in the way, to make sure I route the downpipe with plenty of clearance around it. Let's get the drive shafts in and then start mocking up what's going to happen with the downpipe. So I can't remember where we got to here, but I'll continue the video with what's going on this evening. So I think the last thing I showed you was just actually the clutch and stuff. That's all finished now, all working, and the gear linkages are all working. So the next little project is actually going to be sorting out the downpipe. Now I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there's not a lot of room down in this general vicinity. So we got the 3-inch downpipe that I started making as far as there, if you remember, off the car. I then decided to actually terminate it there at the time with a V-band, and then to continue at this point, because obviously there was no way I knew where I could run it before, because I obviously didn't know where the chassis member and everything was. So we left it there, and now I basically need to continue this somehow down the exhaust tunnel, and then I can go ahead and fabricate the whole exhaust. Now it's a 3-inch pipe, and I intend on it staying 3-inch from the turbo right back to the back of the car. So as you can obviously tell, there is not 3 inches of space. In fact, there's not even 2 inches of space anywhere along here. Obviously I could have chopped a section out that chassis member there, but obviously that rail was there for a reason. It does strengthen the front end of the car, and I don't really want to chop into it unnecessarily. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to come over here. There's a big enough gap here to get a 3-inch pipe down. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to come over to the right slightly, straight down behind the collector there where there's just clearance. I'll then be able to run across the top of the gear linkages. I just need to kick it back slightly there to avoid the 4-branch. And then once we get back to this area, we can 90 degree and straight down the tunnel as before. It's a little bit more work. Obviously, if we were to just bend this out of the way, we could just come straight across here, which would be really easy, and straight down there, which is the easy option. But we don't want to do that, hopefully. So we're going to start from here, and I'll get this 90 or whatever welded to, well, tacked to the flange. Bolt that up with the flange so it's in its final position, and then we basically work our way down sort of one bend at a time, and then I'll just tack everything for now until we get down to there. I'm going to have another flange down there to join it, because obviously there's no way you'll be able to fit that piece if it went right down the tunnel. So we're going to start here and end there with the next section. Then obviously once we've done that, I can weld that one up, and then the normal downpipe can shoot down there on another flange, and we'll probably have a flange halfway back the exhaust so you can split that. I'm a fan of having exhausts that you can split in lots of different places. It makes fitting them a lot easier, because it gives you a little bit of adjustment on the spinner side of things. So if you don't get it exactly spot on, you can generally make it fit. And obviously with a downpipe like this, you haven't got a lot of options, because if you made this in one piece, you'd have to fit it with the engine, but there's no way you'd be able to actually fit that with the engine, because it would just be impossible. The engine's so tight coming in and out of here anyway. So we're going to start. I'm going to get the welder out and start getting some bits of pipes together. The V-bands that I've been using are just the same as I've used in the past. So they're just a stainless V-band style clamp. They're not the most expensive in the world, but they seem to do the job. The only thing I would say with these is when you're mocking things up, so you're taking them on and off, put some copper grease. And you can see on this one here, I've already done that. You want to put some copper grease on the threads because they are prone to getting hot and they tend to lock up on you. Right, so I've just tacked the flange onto this first bend here now, so that's what's going to send it down behind the fore branch. So I'm going to go and bolt this to the car now, and that will then enable me to extend. I have just tacked the next section on here, so I'll go and check that now and see what that looks like in the car. You'll find when you do this, obviously when you weld it, it moves a bit one way or moves a bit the other way. So when you're working with something that's as tight as this, you have to do it sort of one piece at a time. If you go ahead and weld the whole thing up with the rest of this on there, you'll go and fit it to the car and you'll find the ends moved by like a centimetre or half an inch one way or the other, and it won't fit anymore. It'll be touching something. It's not so bad on a sort of OEM situation where there's lots of room anyway, because you've got quite a lot of give, but there is absolutely no give in this whatsoever. The gear linkages are going to touch it if we move like too far down at all. And obviously it's already resting against the manifold virtually to avoid the bulkhead. So we need to make sure we get this right the first time round. It's also important that when you're test fitting this, you want to do that clamp up every time, because you've only got to have that thing a couple thou from touching, and that's a lot of movement down at the other end of the pipe. So you can end up making the whole pipe and think it's brilliant, and then you'll bollock down your top flange there and it won't fit, or you'll bend everything and stress it. Right, so we'll skip forward a few things here. So I've welded a couple bends on there now. So we're going to drop that in. I've just got the V-flange, sorry, the clamp for the V-flange on there. So I'm going to drop that in there like that. Right, just skipping on a bit now. So I'm just welding up these. This is the first bit of the downpipe I've made. I've already welded some of it, just done this bit. So I'm just welding the flange on the front here. Right, I've welded all that up now and rode around. So that first piece of downpipe, which basically goes from that flange on the small short piece off the turbo, and it ends just at the top of the stock tunnel, is now sort of finished. So there's a flange on each end of that, so that bit comes out and it will just go in and out of there. You've got to stick it down in that hole in the corner and then slide it round, and you can do it all in situ, which is quite good. So that piece is finished. So the next stage is going to be the actual exhaust itself, or the final piece of a downpipe, and I'll work my way towards the back of the car. Right, so obviously we need to start with another flange to go on the back of that piece I've already made. So I've just got a piece of flange and I've got a small piece of pipe that I'm going to weld. I've just tacked in here at an angle. So that will be the start of the downpipe, which will then join on to the rest of the downpipe, something like that. And then hopefully that short piece there, and it'll be able to be reused. And that will get us down underneath the car, where we can then go into a straight section heading for the fuel tank, where you've got to start with some more bends again to get around the axle. So what basically is going on here now, I'm just going to tack this on here, then go back under the car. The key with anything to do with the exhaust light when you're doing this sort of stuff is just to keep tacking everything together and keep testing it, because things move around more than you might expect. Right, so just put a couple of tacks on this piece now. Got some marks on it which line up with each other, which I made in the car. Just want to hold it in position, make sure you're nice and flush all the way around. These things are a lot easier to weld together if you don't have gaps. Trust me. Right, just a little tack like that is all you need. So we'll go under the car now and see what it's looking like. Right, so we're underneath the car now. We're on that first length of a straight piece that goes from the downpipe back to towards the fuel tank. So you can almost do that on a 3.0 with a straight piece of pipe. You just need to put a slight angle in the end just so it comes up and levels out, otherwise it works its way downhill. When you've got like a big 3-inch exhaust like this on a car, you want to keep it tucked up as tight as you possibly can, because the tunnel isn't really meant for 3-inch pipe and it will ground out in places if you don't. Right, so I got all the different sections tacked together now. So that's the back box. So it's got the hangers tacked on and that end extension, we can focus in there. And then this is the mid section of the pipe all tacked up. And the front bit's already welded up. I sort of did that bit, and then before I did that bit because it was a pain disconnecting that. So it's all ready to weld up, solid now, so I'll weld all around those beads, around these flanges. And then we should be good to fit it to the car. And it can hopefully stay on there then. The back box is actually one I've had here for ages. It's the same as the one we used on the Cummins. It's not actually really what I wanted to use, but we got it kicking around, so I decided I'd use it for now anyway. Right, so I just finished welding that up now. So you see the whole exhaust on the floor. So the piece on the right is the downpipe that we made first. Then we got the centre section, which goes right back to the fuel tank area, and then the back box bolts on that. I've just literally got the tip to weld on. I always do that last, you get everything bolted up for final, then position that exactly where you want it, and then weld that last. But you can obviously remove that back box on its own, so it's nice and easy to do afterwards. So we're going to final assemble this on the car now and see where we go from there. Right, well, we've got it all bolted up here now, right from the turbo right back to the back of the car, so you can see he's dropping back down through there now quite nicely. We've got some clearance right around it, and he clears the gear linkages, which is a extra bonus. And so we come around the back of the car then. We got it coming out the back, just got a nice little 3-inch downturn on there, nothing too over dramatic, a bit understated.
You can see I've done my best to keep it up flush with the car. He does sit probably about 1.5 inches lower than the bottom line of the car, but he's literally as high as it can be, which isn't bad for 3-inch pipe, because very often you see people make these pipes on these cars and they drag around about there, really low as it goes under the fuel tank. So you've got to really pay attention to try and get them sitting up tight to the car. So we come in underneath now.
See, I've just got the back box there. I've put three hangers on that to pick up all the 2 rear mounts in the back there, and also the one at the front, and a V-flange on it, so you can drop the back box independently of the rest of the system. And then obviously the rest of the pipe follows up the OEM tunnel up through. It's quite tight, but we got clearance on everything, and then obviously continues to follow up behind, which you can't really see. But yeah, so that's the exhaust done. So I expect that'll be the end of this video.